presumed from replay didn't exist. All right, in the bottom right here in the blue from IG, this is the Young Buck Coffee.
And over here in the top left, his teammate in the red. This is XY.
All right.
Oh, don't be doing it. I hope that was lag on my end and not.
There was a bit of a jitter. It was a bit of a jitter. I think we're coming good.
SCV's gonna fist bump in the middle of the map. And they'll both be pleased to see that the racks are in each other's bases. It is entirely possible that one of these guys might decide to try out a cheeky little proxy. Maybe not like a full-on one, like everything's built across the map, but you know, just do a 2 racks for good measure. Yeah, I mean, a good old 2 racks can sometimes put the fear of Reaper into your Terran opponent. It can be nice. We saw actually some early racks action in the TVTs and the Oceanic side of things between Sita and Raza. That was a cool little bit of pressure there. Yeah. Those were some TVTs, Maynard, let me tell you.
I'll tell you what.
Tell you what.
Tell you what. That was some TVT right there. So the reactor coming down here for coffee. Double Reaper production coming up. No or XY. Just happy to go.
Mm-hmm. Joe does appear that way. We'll see if we get that early game fight. Just Reaper versus Reaper. Couple of Hellions in the mix as well. Pretty popular for a lot of Terrans at the moment. XY looks pretty happy to sit at home though. He's got his 2 Reapers spread out and he's going to follow up with a mine that he can park in the front there as well. So if anything does come in, he should be fairly well set to just prevent that from getting too deep on his territory. But the funny thing about Reapers is that they can completely bypass that by hopping up a ledge.
Certainly can. And you're still making more Reapers here, so not going into Marines like I kind of assumed. You know, every round of Reapers from this reactor is 100 gas. Which is, you know, that's a factory, that's a starport, that's a cyclone, that's a lot. So looks like he still wants to have invest a little bit more into that earlier game army, and it looks like the plan here is to just use those 3 Reapers to jump onto the main base and do a little bit of harassment and a little bit of scouting at the same time.
Yeah. Looks like XY is one of those Terrans that really favors the Cyclone here, but in come these Reapers now. There is 1 Cyclone out so far. There's a couple of Reapers of his own are coming in to help defend. It's really about how many kills can you actually rack up here before you get taken out. He gets 3 of those.
Yeah, which is on, you know, obviously not worth 3 Reapers, but it is scouting information as well. So hopefully for XY he's happy with that investment, or rather for Coffee he's happy with that investment.
The follow-up for XY is going to be the Banshee, so he's going to have a bit of a mix here. He's got 1 mine, he's got a couple of Cyclones, he's got 1 Banshee, sort of heading out with a bit of everything. He's got a tank on the way as well.
A partridge and a petri.
Yeah, pretty much. So I don't know that he's going to be able to do anything with this, especially because there's already the tank out. There'll be a Raven out shortly for Coffee as well, but he can of course roam the map, just check out the surroundings and try and keep an eye on whether or not Coffee is going to be moving out. Oh, you got to be careful.
Yeah. The power of these earlier Cyclones is they are super fast, so they're looking for anything in the air. Like catching a Raven would be amazing. Catching a Medevac or a Liberator would also be just as good. Stuff like that. That's what the Cyclones are being active for. And it looks like he's going down the left-hand side with the Cyclones just potentially trying to catch an air unit again, but also at the same time clearing the way for this Banshee to potentially get in there unbeknownst to Coffee and find some SCV damage.
Does lose the Cyclone in the grass there and the Spotter Marine too. So XY doing a good job at keeping the vision away from Coffee, because really all he can see is his own base. So he doesn't have a whole lot of warning about the harassment from the sky that might be sliding in here in just a second. And he's actually going to move out with this couple of tanks and a Raven. Okay, I was gonna say, is if he actually goes all the way across the map, I'm a bit concerned for him.
Yeah, certainly. There's a bit of a meat grinder here in the middle. There's 2 Ravens, though. What's the Raven count right now for XY? It seems like that should be his... Okay, yeah, because he opened with the Banshee, so he is down a little bit in Raven at the moment, but he's about to have that extra one. But the problem is that because he's a little bit later to that Raven, he's also a little bit later to Viking production, so there's a bit of a better air army for Coffee. Banshee is about to hit the main. It does not have Cloak, I don't believe, so... It should be relatively easy to deal with, but that said, though, it doesn't look like Coffee has a whole lot to main at all.
Yeah, I actually don't think he has enough to press the issue against XY on his side of the map either. So that Banshee will get taken out after only killing a couple of workers, but there's likewise 3 tanks here, a couple Cyclones that can be really helpful for sniping. And he's got his own Ravens, you know, he has the defender's advantage. So glad to see Coffee pick up and sort of reposition here. I wonder, is he actually going to go around? Because he's sort of just parked here in the middle of nowhere, and if XY heads across the map, then he has to make a decision. Do I actually go in or do I pull back?
Do I stay or do I go? He's going through the middle with the most of his army. 1-1 bio upgrade starting a lot quicker here for Coffee than for XY, whose engineering bays aren't even done yet. So I kind of like Coffee's, you know, upcoming minute or so, but right now his army is very much reliant on being sieged first and on his air units maintaining the, you know, the keeping the Ravens zoned back away from those tanks. He does have a tank advantage by the looks of things. It's a lot here. It's 5 tanks.
Yeah, the Vikings definitely adding what he needs to. He actually drops all the auto turrets right at the front here, trying to pick off some of this stuff as he dives in a little bit.
Yeah, it's trying to be trying to pick a fight, trying to get as much as he can with the auto turrets. It does use a lot of the energy for Coffee. Still a fair bit of energy left for these Ravens for XY, but they're vulnerable. The Vikings coming in for that pickoff. Marine zoning though, and the Vikings of XY also being mass repaired by SCVs that have been pulled off the line. Speaking of the SCVs being pulled off the line, there is a 6-worker lead for Coffee on the other side of the map, by the way. So behind this, Coffee is out mining XY, and the third is down and saturated, whereas XY's is not being set up yet because he's under pressure here.
Yeah, Coffee has had this for a little bit, and this is the great thing about the way he's playing is he's just moving out, he's posturing, he's not over-committing to anything.
Oh, the Ravens! Ravens digging deep here for that interference matrix. Looks like XY wants to hit this army with everything, but he's not getting in range. He's in range of a couple of these tanks now, but it's like a bit of an awkward fight, honestly. These tanks are going to start firing again. I really think XY kind of bit off more than he could chew there, honestly. I mean, at least he got rid of the Vikings, I suppose.
He does push Coffee back. There's a little bit too much taken out there for him to sit there any longer because there's no longer any cannon fodder in front of the tanks to protect them. So finally he gets to establish his own third base and think more about, you know, investing some of that extra cash into some more upgrades. We see the 1-1, the combat shields coming in, but for Coffee that was done long ago. He's got combat shields finishing, armory is coming in too, so he can go straight into the 2-2 upgrades, and he's continuing that Viking production. XY looks like he's stopped at the 3 because he wants to grab some medevacs out, so I still like Coffee's position.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely looking good, especially in army supply, and he had a head start on his upgrades as well. Oh my god, yeah, the tank count is massive. If he still had a huge air army, I'd be super worried for XY. As it stands, I'm only a lot worried instead of super worried.
Yeah, I mean, it is always hard to close it out in a PvP, so let's see what XY can come up with here. Does win the initial air battle there. Couple disables coming down on the siege tanks, and they're starting to get fired at, but likewise Coffee taking some shots of his own on his tanks. That's been cleared up now though, and Coffee going to reposition a few of these tanks.
The tanks getting in range of third, and now they're going to start putting pressure on, and this is kind of, you know, sand through the hourglass right now for XY. The clock is ticking. He's got to make something happen, otherwise it's going to take more and more damage from these tanks. Coffee's medevacs coming forward to give the tanks the extra bit of range so he doesn't have to keep spamming scans.
What a spread he's got of those tanks too. It's just pretty ridiculous, and XY He's repositioning the SCVs to try and heal that command center back up. And XY is getting more Vikings out here, so he will be able to bully Coffee out of that airspace at the very least, and maybe start to push him back. It's only medevacs and Ravens there. Well, it was. Now there's Vikings in. He's actually going to come back out on top of the airfight. More Marines will arrive as well. Got to be careful with those, though. They actually almost all get shredded. XY going for a big drop in the main of Coffee, though, and there's not really a quick response here from Coffee. He actually has to stim up the ramp to get in here.
Yeah, he got that dream scenario where there was just a wide window in Coffee's sensor net back at home. He has this sensor tower, but as far as like units at home, nothing. Not until they came out of that natural from where he's been rallying his production this whole game. So XY got to hit the main and the third and killed 21 SCVs. But even with that damage, Zeph, even with all of that 21 SCVs worth of damage, I still think XY is in a ton of hot water right now. He's down a lot in army supply, and he's only ahead 5. And 5 might sound like a lot in a mirror, but I feel like at the 12-minute mark, not as much.
Yeah, Coffee's got a 4th base. He still has a nice army with the upgrade advantage. He might be able to catch out these Marines in the bottom left, and he's still got those tanks sieging up towards the third base of XY, and XY hasn't really been able to put together a response to that, so that's why we see him going behind enemy lines, trying to do his damage there and force something else out of Coffee. Coffee, yeah, hasn't really had to give up this position. It looks like he might finally clean that up now.
Yeah, finally. Meanwhile, should do. Tanks are good, but they're not that good. Surely not. Landed Vikings assisting. Unsieged tanks actually pretty good against landed Vikings.
He got a lot of value out of those last 4 tanks.
Yeah, totally. Damn. Tanks are pretty good. I mean, I always say the thing about TVT is the tank. The tank, whether you're mech or bio, the tank is the king of the ground army, and it's the reason why TVT is the way it is. It's just such a powerful unit, and this siege line is insane. Coffee is now in range of the natural, threatening the production now of XY. If he can get, if he's getting through any of these tanks, then XY is toast.
Yeah, Coffee's got enough Vikings in the sky as well, but XY doesn't really have a chance to wrestle that air control back from him, so he's always going to have that advantage too, and his bases are just having a real rough time. The Marines are going to circle around a little bit by the looks of it, as Coffee leads the Vikings with the tanks to continue firing. He's going to drop on top of these tanks to try and get rid of a couple of them, and he is actually, well, pretty successful, but a couple of those are going to just get repaired back up by XY.
Yep. The problem with getting to this position is that Coffee's cut off the natural from this planetary, and that's, you know, that's what, 17, 18 SCVs not mining, they're just mass repairing right now.
Yeah, Coffee's got pretty much complete control of this map. XY might try and, I don't know, I was going to say try and like go behind and do another drop or something, but I don't think that'll help him here really. He is going to be able to clean up these tanks, but Coffee's already done with that. He's heading back towards the original position that he had towards the third base. His 3-3 is halfway done here as well, so he's still gaining ground.
Certainly is. We've got constant pressure here. The third has finally been killed as well. It felt like a sure thing. It was just a matter of time. Coffee's army supply and supply lead in general is starting to narrow a little bit, but the lead that he's got himself is shown more than just in supply numbers. It's also the fact that he's got 2, 3-3 upgrades on the way, whereas XY can only afford the 1. It's the fact that he's got another factory on the way. He's about to double the tank production here of XY. And interestingly enough, a lot of times in TVT, at this point, the Terrans will be on multiple factory tank production, but they've been on 1 factory tank production for a really long time. It's just been more about the Marines and having the men with the guns on the ground here. And also Coffee has a head start on the Corvid reactor Raven transition, which a lot of Terrans like to do in the super late game.
So many Vikings in the sky, and this base, oh, it's so fresh and shiny and new. It came straight from the main, and it's going to get absolutely shredded. XY has found his window. It's down at the third of Coffee's, and he's going to try and punch through there. There's not a huge amount at home, but it looks like we've got a full-on base trade happening.
Yes, ma'am. But the main base looks like it's going to be okay for Coffee. He's got that tank on the high ground. And he's got those Marines sort of camping that ramp as well. And it looks like a lot more firepower, to be honest, for Coffee on the other side of the map. The tanks are sieging up now for XY, and every unit lost here is devastating for XY because he needs to win the game.
Yeah, Coffee takes out that other base. No CCs left. There's the GG.
All right, that was a lovely little tug of war there, but it did seem like it got to a point like there was a moment in that game where Coffee got into the driver's seat and did not let XY take the wheel. It was just like, you know, he ran that game home, and there was not a whole lot that XY could do about it. He did that lovely drop, but that drop when you kill 21 SCVs, you're like, oh, that means he's winning, right? It's like, no, he's been losing pretty badly until that point. This just prolongs his existence.
Yeah, by that point, there were already 3 bases that had been mining earlier than XY got the opportunity to do. And there was a 4th CC either built or, you know, just morphing into an orbital. So even though he did a lot of damage, the worker difference wasn't that big at that point. He needed a little extra happening because he was also behind on upgrades. He didn't have air control, and really that all started from Coffee in the early game, just taking control of the map, taking the middle, moving around, sieging up, unsieging, moving somewhere else. Not ever really super committing, but just threatening. And that's really all it took.
Yeah. And as the dust settles, we have got ourselves Coffee 1-0 up on the old Salt XY. But can the old man still do it? Has he still got it? Let's find out together after the break. We'll see you then. Yeah, g'day mates. Welcome back to the DreamHack Masters Chinese main event. I am Maynard. With me is Zeph. And we've got at least one more game, Zeph. At least one.
At least one. Maybe if things get really wild, it could be two. But don't get overexcited, guys. We don't want to overpromise and underdeliver here.
That's right. And honestly, I feel like if the ball is in anyone's courts and whether or not it's going to be a game 3, it's kind of X-Wise. You know, he's currently down in the series against Coffee. And if he doesn't pull up his socks and adjust his game plan, then I think that this 21-year-old stud that's been a mainstay of NA Challenger back in the WCS days, and definitely a mainstay here of these Chinese main events for DreamHack Masters, is just going to walk all over the old man.
Yeah, he's looking pretty good. I mean, that last game was a good long game. We got, you know, a good amount of movement, some skirmishes, but ultimately Coffee was in control the whole time. So in a sense, it was like watching XY slowly lose, whereas like last season, I think the games were a little bit more decisive. You know, Coffee walked in, did the thing, won the video game. Whereas this is being dragged out a little bit more, but that bodes well for XY. It means he's holding his own for longer in the game, and you know, maybe with just some extra fine tuning, he can find himself a win here.
Yeah, definitely has the skills to do it. He's beaten Coffee before, but the kid was looking really on fire there on Lightshade. Next map coming in is 2,000 atmospheres. Oxide? No, Oxide. I think is the next one, I believe.
Yep, Oxide will be the one.
Damn, I'm good.
Unreal. Crazy memory for 2 a.m. Much respect.
It's the first map I've remembered, so it's amazing that happened at 2 a.m. and not at, like, you know, 11. In the top right spawn here from IG, this is Coffee.
And over here in the bottom left, he's in the red, and he is also from IG. This is XY.
Once teammates, now rivals, in the glory of 1v1 combat. I miss Gladiator days. At least we have StarCraft 2, which is like the digital Gladiator. One-on-one.
Some might say that Age of Empires is also currently the digital Gladiator.
Age of what? Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's a pretty underground game. Not a lot of people know about it.
Sounds like it's probably bad, but at least we know StarCraft 2 is really good. So we'll just concentrate on this one for now.
Yeah, look, it's half decent. I've played it a little bit.
It's all right. You know, a couple tens of thousands of games.
You know, MMORPGs have like a total time played thing that you can request. And
I remember doing that on my WoW account back in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Late 2000s, not in the mid. In the mid, I didn't have that much, but Wrath of the Lich King, I did the time, and I'm like, oh god, and then I stopped.
Yeah, my time is measured in years. But,
oh no.
I always wondered what it would be for StarCraft, because I think at this point I've probably spent more time on that than I did in WoW. So hell yeah for no lifing video games, team.
That's right. I reckon I've overtaken my WoW time with StarCraft 2 time. I mean, it took 11 years, but we got there.
Well, you need that kind of commitment if you've ever been knee deep in WoW.
True. That's not a problem these days. Boy, am I done with that genre of video game. Holy hell.
Can't relate. I'm still not done with it.
Like alt-tabbed into another MMO while she's casting. But you can get those multitasking skills from playing StarCraft, so pick up your copy today for free.
All right, what do we got going on here in this game? We are on Oxide, and we do have a little bit of divergence in the builds in the early stages here.
Tis, yeah. We do have like Coffee getting the extra few rounds, the early game units, the extra couple of Reapers, the extra Hellion, whereas XY is going into the Marines and tanks a little bit quicker. Other than that, very similar.
Coffee seems to be the one to prefer the higher Reaper counts early on. He's coming in with a very standard 3 Reaper, 2 Hellion. And he's going to be heading right up the ramp. Let's see if he can get a favorable fight here, using the mines to force these units out of that position. But the tank is here, so he can't overstay his welcome.
Yeah. Little bit of an overextension there. Coffee still has that Hellion, so he should be able to get out of there. Wants that Reaper on there. Nice. Oh, hang on. Okay. I think you just realized that the extra couple shots on that Hellion, it would have died.
Yep. All in all, a relatively even trade, and Coffee following up with a Cyclone for defense, which is smart because XY has himself a medevac on the move. But look at that positioning from Coffee too.
A bit of an awkward drop. 2 Marines, a Reaper, and a tank walk into a bar. There is no punchline. This is, I mean, obviously, if it's completely unseen, it'll do damage. This cliff is nice. It's one of the reasons why Terran like Oxide.
Yeah, the tank just isn't close. So, like, if he had something built on the top of the ramp, then maybe he moves that siege tank closer and pressures that. But as it stands, he actually just loses this. Yeah, he's not really able to get anything out of it.
Yeah, that felt very undercooked by XY, that whole strategy. It seemed like he just kind of went for it and kind of hoped that Coffee didn't have any air units or any tanks siege up or anything like that. This one Viking kind of shuts that down, right? He's got these 2 Vikings here in the middle of the map, but Coffee's just move commanding through it, and oh no, he blocked off this location, so I think the tank like tried to click down there and then mispathed over to the right side. Raven coming in for the auto turret to try and body block these Vikings, kills one of them but loses the tank. This is some like I've had TVTs that go like this.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are way better than I ever will be, but like it's just like we're just like, oh god, like both players are like, damn it, I could promise you that, but like not happy with how this game's going. Neither of them is happy right now.
The classic TVT experience, folks. You're witnessing it right here. But Coffee forced to fight with some SCVs here to just try and clean this up, but we're coming to a game.
There it is. Man, the XY had to drag Coffee down into the mud. You know how sometimes there'll be a boxing match between 2 people, and one person will be a lot taller than the others, which means that well, not a boxing match, we'll say an MMA match, because what I'm talking about would be illegal in boxing. But I'm saying that when someone has a lot more reach than another person, that's a big advantage in striking. They have more, they're taller, they have more reach. They don't need to get as close to hit the person, right? That's when the smaller person says, I'm going to grapple you to the ground, and your height is not going to matter. And I think that's what XY did in that game. It's like, we're going to get dirty. It's going to be rough. We're both going to be hurting. But in the end, I'm comfortable with this. We're going to win the video game here.
Yeah, this is a short and sweet one. But yeah, this is one of those moments where it's like, well, yep, that's TVT for you. You only need a small mistake or a small-scale battle to not go your way, especially in the early stages, for it to all slip away. And we see, you know, Coffee desperately trying to clean this up with SCVs. Turns out Vikings really shred through those, and they save their tank buddy. There's just nothing being produced from Coffee that's going to clean that up in time to be useful. So, yeah. That's that. We're going to a map number 3. Was that the Jack and Ethel one?
Yeah, it is actually. Well done, Zeph. Damn, 2 a.m. The memory kicking in. Second wind. You're gonna be hitting bed, and then you were like, no, I can't sleep anymore. I need to cast another 6 best of 3s. Put me on the European broadcast. It's gonna be messaging Joe Miller immediately and going, hey, knock someone off that team. Put me on there. I'm jacked up, good to go.
Yeah. It'll sound like a good idea until the delirium kicks in.
Yeah, you'll cast one game and go, oh no, I've made a terrible mistake, and then just bounce.
Yeah, pretty much. What can you do? Maybe someday. I did want to try and like flip my sleep schedule sometime to see if I could do one of those late night for us broadcasts, but turns out that's really difficult, and then you have to go back to like a normal existence afterwards.
Have I talked to you about that online Katowice that we did earlier in the year?
Maybe.
The one with the floating desk?
No, you didn't. No.
No. That broadcast started at 1 a.m. and that was Katowice. So this isn't two best of threes, Zeph. This is like two best of fives and a best of seven. Starting at 2 a.m. When Pig and I were casting that grand final, the best of seven, the sun was up and my wife was going to work. All right. Now that's the StarCraft. That's some D-Gen hours right there. Anyway, the bottom left here from Invictus Game. This is Coffee.
And over here in the top right, his teammate for the last time tonight. This is XY.
That's right. Our last game, no matter what.
Got EU right around the corner, of course. So all you angry nerds being like, "Where's the EU games? Relax."
Yeah, we're big fans of Twitch chat during the broadcast that we do. Zeph, myself, Pig. We're like, oh, I wonder what these guys have to say about the Taiwanese games that we're doing. They're like, when EU, Resident Sleeper. Are these guys bronze? And then I'm like, oh wow, that's awesome. Anyway,
yeah,
let's get back.
Anyway, let's minimize that.
Anyway, yeah, let's just close that. So we do have the one gas from XY. This is a small difference between the two players. So XY is going to go for a one gas expand, much faster command center. Coffee, double gas, faster factory, later command center. Zeph, over to you.
Yeah, Coffee does like to have more stuff earlier on. He seems to be the one that's more willing to head out on the map and have that first little poke at his opponent, see what's up, see if he can't get a good little fight early on, and then go from there. I wouldn't even mind seeing in future best of threes between these two, because I know we'll get them. Just see XY be the one, you know, be the aggressor, be the one to try and take control, because it really seems like Coffee is always the one showing up and trying to put a spanner in the works of his opponent, and it kind of works because XY gets a little bit stuck on his side of the map defending.
It can do, yeah. The last game I felt like was a little, you know, obviously a good call from XY in the end because he won the game, but it felt very YOLO, like not really well thought out. You know what I mean? Like it was lucky that it worked, kind of, in a way, because he was like moving a lot of stuff and losing tons of units. But just like, you know, Coffee wasn't doing an amazing job either, and after he pulled all the SCVs, he lost all of the advantage he had from that worker advantage. So, yeah. Reaper's trying to get in the main base of the Marines in position here. Going to get one. Oh, not quite. KDA grenade securing their exit.
Yeah, that should be more or less the end of that for now. I don't think you'll be able to get too deep in on this territory. Could swing back in with the Reapers, but yeah, a little bit more out here for XY defending, and he's going to have a tank here in a little bit. Coffee's got the medevac and tank coming in, so he himself may decide, all right, let's just ship that stuff across the map and see if we can't put some pressure on the front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, early medevac here, so Coffee going to get across the map and put the aggressive pants on. Viking for XY, though, similar to the last game where I think that the defending player looks good on paper. Similar to how Coffee looked good on paper to the attack of XY. His drop got super shot down. Just the next part of it that kind of, you know, that Coffee whiffed. Can XY actually hold on with the, you know, the defender's advantage here? I think that, you know, on paper he's going to have the right units. He has a tank, he has a Viking, he has a bunker.
Yeah, the tricky thing is, oh well, he will siege up first. And okay, Coffee needs to get on out of there. So yeah, that's the end of that.
That's how that should look. when you have that Viking and you got that tank and someone goes for a really early medevac like that, that's how the defense is meant to go. That's what Coffee wanted in the last game.
Yeah, I think I don't think Coffee actually had the Viking out when it sieged, but it was just kind of like a awkward position because sort of like XY left and Coffee came out and everything went wrong from there. But all right, yeah, he just doesn't have enough vision to see exactly what XY's follow-up is here, but he's going to head out again with the units that he has available to him, the speedy ones at least, and just camp out the front here, take some shots at that Viking. But otherwise, back at home, he's getting himself a third CC, but XY is already one step ahead of him.
And Coffee going for the third, but yeah, as you mentioned, XY a step ahead, much faster third base. Coffee supply blocked a little bit as well. Naughty, naughty.
A little suboptimal. He will be unblocked in just a second. I think the question here is, does XY manage to secure that third before Coffee does, though? Because Coffee's heading out with a fair number of units, and he can just sort of park himself out here and force XY to actually have to push out of his base if he wants to take that third, whereas, you know, if Coffee gets that base finished up and landed, that's sort of his defense against similar pressure from XY.
Air advantage looking good here for XY defensively.
Yeah.
If Coffee had like another reacted round of Vikings with this, could probably make something happen. It's a little bit so the thing that's kind of tough about TVT is that it's like the tanks are the best units you have, and it's hard to attack with them and really easy to defend with them. But you know, that's why it like comes down a lot to. That's why they'll have that Count Dooku meme from the prequels where it's like, I see our battle of tanks is going to rely on our mastery of the Vikings in the end, because it really is all about the air and having that extra vision, having the right scan, the right time. I messed up the meme, but you know what I mean. You've seen
Giant nerd.
Yeah, thank you.
Gotcha.
I'm not much of a Star Wars guy, I'm sorry.
Alright, so XY actually pretty handily gets down here. Similar timing and landing that third in the end. Coffee likewise putting his down on the ground. I'm going to start mining that up, and this is looking a little bit more like game number 1, where both of them are going to get fairly well set up, and it maybe won't be till those upgrades start kicking in that we see a little bit more action. And this time around, XY is actually the one ahead on that.
Yeah, XY is actually looking relatively decent in this game. Macro kicking in as well. You know, the upgrade head start is wonderful too. Coffee's just started his 1-1. Look at that upgrade lead for XY. That's pretty massive. If he identifies how far... I mean, anytime you identify that you're ahead on upgrades with your units versus the other units in a mirror, I mean, that's when you want to pick fights. You want Marine on Marine. You want to have those fights, so usually you'd be a lot more active.
Yeah, I do like how Coffee's continuing to move around the middle of the map, though. He just sort of camps out, waddles around. He's not committing to anything, but he's keeping tabs. He's hoping to catch anything that might be sneaking across the map and trying to find an angle to put pressure on XY. Again, this is a game where XY has just sat back pretty much the whole time. I would assume he's going to be looking for a time to shine here, but both of them sieging up. He's actually going for it. Don't know about this for Coffee.
Yeah, Coffee coming into a little bit of a choke point here. A bit of a meat grinder. XY's air is doing nicely for his tanks, and as they become uninhibited, they can start shooting back and zoning back Coffee's attack. And the front line of Coffee leading, like, if you have just the tanks and a handful of Vikings, you can make stuff happen, but losing all the Marines there does kind of take the wind out of your sails, and Coffee needs to retreat. And a big head start on 2-2 for XY, as he doesn't really miss a beat on his macro either. XY playing a great game here. Really earned this lead that he has right now.
This is the best he's looked. It's like he finally found his rhythm here in game number 3. And it's great to see. He might actually be able to come up on top in this one. And Coffee heading towards the 4th base. XY doing similar. So, you know, the timings for both are pretty even, which ultimately doesn't bode that well for Coffee, because XY is still that little bit ahead. He hasn't found a way to do some damage and find his own advantage in this game.
Now, we have the extra bit of production switching on over for Coffee. Going to have a big focus on Marine production by the looks of things. Its barracks is nothing but reactors kicking in. And it looks like both players around the same time are getting their second factory as well. Going to go into multiple tank production. Remember in the Lightshade game, it took a little while for them to actually get to that phase of the game. Oh no, it's the YOLO turret. It can sometimes be awesome though. And the oh my god, XY.
Oh goodness.
Oh no! 2 Marines lived to tell the tale, and not for very long.
Well, that is unfortunate. XY actually had a really nice army supply lead until that happened, and you see him sort of
Yeah.
Do a U-turn.
It's one of those things where I'm like, I think that XY is still ahead, but that certainly doesn't do him any favors. Is like the length of his lead has been shortened. The reason why I say he's still ahead is it looks like he's got a head start on the Raven late game. There's the extra couple starports going down, and his 2-2 is a lot further along, as is his +1 for tanks versus Coffee. And yeah, the extra tech lab's going down the starport, so expecting to see Corvid reactor very soon, and a bit more Raven production coming up next for XY.
Yeah. Small fight here. He's just going to clean up those Marines. Coffee heading out on the left-hand side as well with another hit squad. And this could have looked so different if XY got that drop-off, because he would have been hitting right now. 2-2 would have just kicked in and he'd have a really nice window. But as it stands, Coffee has shut that down, and now he's actually finding a way to try and do some damage.
Yeah, you don't attack planetaries with Marines. I mean, XY is committing the same sin on the outside of the map. Just doesn't happen. That planetary will last forever. It's David Kim's largest contribution to TVT. The planetary. Long may he reign.
He's getting cleaned up here in the middle of the map and heading home for some heals, and the army supply is really evened out now after that fight where Coffee lost a fair bit. It took him a little while to replenish here. His 2-2's finishing up as well, and he's actually closed the gap with those upgrades fairly nicely. XY is still ahead, but he's not like massively ahead, having this huge upgrade window from before, provided that Coffee actually goes straight into the 3-3, which
has the money for it.
He actually built.
He's more concerned about this attack right now rather than starting his 3-3 upgrades, of course. This attack is looking pretty nasty. Raven's still alive, actually dropping the interference matrix on that tank and zoning back this third command center. And this is a little bit of a soft underbelly here for Coffee because it is an orbital. You know, it's harder to defend. It's also a bit of a weird choke point. And this is the most open part of it. Now that XY's cracked it open, he can now kind of muscle into this concave where not only is he keeping those tanks on that ramp safe, now he can pressure the main base with his high ground vision.
Ooh, XY. Pretty nice position, but he does leave these tanks naked, and they get dropped on, I think only one went down there, and those medevacs are getting taken out. The Vikings getting taken out from XY as well. And XY, kind of hard to see he's coming out on top here. I believe XY is starting to gain some ground, but he has no Marines left to defend against his tanks.
No, I mean, the plus side for XY is that he is still ahead a lot in economy. He's ahead a bit in an army supply, but a good chunk of it is in these 4 tanks, which should go down soon, TM. I like the scan, though, just trying to catch anything being produced and rally down. But the tanks will get cleaned up. There's a lot here for Coffee. As the dust settles, XY is still going to have an army supply lead. And again, like you were talking about that 3-3, remember how Coffee was getting closer and closer on that upgrade? Coffee has forgotten 3-3.
Yeah, well, as he pointed out, he didn't have the money for it anyway, so it would have been a little while. But at this point, it's just like not on the menu. He's got to make some stuff. Another attempted attack from XY down here on the bottom right. It does get deflected, but Coffee sort of still rebuilding here for a second. And yeah, looking towards the Raven count again. But XY, he's already been producing air stuff for a little bit. He's getting the Vikings, the Ravens.
Yeah, the Corvid reactor as well. So the Ravens are popping out of the starports with the extra energy. Same deal for Coffee. So, but the Raven production advantage is here for XY. He's got a fair more. He's got a good chunk of Vikings as well. And his ground army is going to have 3-3. 3-3 is just kicking in right now for XY. What a wonderful timing.
Oh no, Coffee should get shredded here. The disables go down on the front lines. The Vikings are making short work of the air army of Coffee, and Coffee's trying to chew through this army. It looks like all his Marines have gone down, and it's just tanks left. He can land the Vikings on top of that. There's nothing else in the air to be a threat. Okay, he feeds the bio in. Sure.
Yeah. Like, you know what? I feel bad for Coffee. Here, have some Marines. But the plus side of these Vikings is that they're not going to land because the extra siege tanks will kill the Vikings, but what they are doing is making it so that Coffee can't move. If he tries to go towards the tanks of XY, he's going to get killed, which means that XY got to that planetary over there at the 8 o'clock position for the cost of like a little bit of his army and also trading against the army. So now XY is super far ahead in you know, upgrades, army, SCVs, you name it. He's looking real good. Been a great game for XY so far, and he's been able to continue pushing these advantages that he has
And again, he's still sitting happily on 3-3. He's even mixing some liberators in now. He's going to come up this ramp, getting him disabled on the one tank, sieged, and the first two. And he's going to try and get through here. The Raven shots are going off. Does he have enough to close distance?
When you're the Terran that's dropping an anti-armor missile, that's how you know that he's losing. Because it's just, it feels really good to paint everything orange, but it's just not as consequential as taking a bunch of tanks out of the mix and you know, losing all those units. Like those units that were debuffed are now back to full strength again, and there just wasn't enough Ravens, enough spellcasters from Coffee to trade well here. And it looks like it's starting to head towards a foregone conclusion here. Coffee just trying to fight for his tournament life because it's game 3. It's a tournament match. It's for hundreds of dollars, going towards thousands of dollars. So of course he is just going to try and muster up everything he can, even though he's 70 supply down.
Shots continue to rain down on this third base from XY, and he's actually got a secondary force moving down here on the right hand side. He scanned this base just a little earlier, and there is nothing here to defend it. Coffee's army is out in the middle of nowhere. I'm not sure he's sending much over here to delete that. It's just like Raven energy that he's willing to use there, but XY is already again hammering on some of the production for Coffee, while Coffee's still just now reaching the base of XY.
There it is. The old man still got it. XY. In his mid-30s, getting himself a victory over a 21-year-old